Hi, welcome to the Dummy Programmer. So today we have a question called sort colors on Leetcode. It's a medium level problem. So what it says is, given an array nums with n objects colored red, white, or blue, sort them in place so that the objects of the same color are adjacent, with the colors in the order red, white, and blue. Okay, and we'll use integers 0, 1, and 2 to represent the colors red, white, and blue. If you found that confusing, what they're asking is basically very simple. So if this is your input array, what they're asking us to do is put all the zeros in the front, all the twos at the back, and all the ones in the middle. Okay. So the output is supposed to be something like this. And they also say that you must solve this problem without using the library's sort function. I mean, that's obvious. So they're asking, could you come up with a one-pass algorithm using only constant extra space? I think we can, no? I think we can. So the best time complexity that the sorting algorithms that we have right now provide us is n log n, right? But I think it can be done in ON. Let's see how to do that. Huh? So if you have 3 pointers, so the thing is we have to track 3 kinds of elements, zeros, ones, and twos. So if we have 3 pointers, tracking zeros, ones, and twos. Okay, let me type it out. So let's call it start. Actually, let's name it according to the question so it's more clear. So if we have a red pointer starting pointing at the 0th element, and then we have a white pointer which is again pointing to the 0th element, and we have a blue pointer which is pointing to nums.count -1, which is the end of the element. So the red pointer is going to track zeros, white pointer is going to track ones, and blue pointer is going to track twos. Okay. So the idea here is, as we so we have to walk white forward in the array, and every time the number that white points to is 0, then we check whether the number pointed to by red is 0 or not. If it is not, we swap both numbers and we increment both forward. Okay. If the number white is pointing to is 1, we do nothing because white is supposed to point to 1. So it is going to move forward. If the number white is pointing to is 2, and at that moment blue is not pointing to 2, then we swap those numbers and we decrement blue. Okay. At this point, you will see that we only decrement blue, we do not increment white, because we don't know what number is coming from the back of the array. It could be a 0 or it could be a 1. If it is a 0, then again, the position at which white is, that needs to be processed again in the next loop, because then it needs to be swapped with red again. I hope it is clear. Otherwise, I'll explain while I'm coding it. It's not a difficult problem, but it might seem confusing at first, but it's a pretty straightforward problem. Okay, so it's an in-out parameter. That means we can swap easily, right? So let's say you have your red pointer, which is pointing to 0, and then you have white pointer, which is pointing to 0, and you have your blue pointer pointing to nums dot count -1. Okay. So we have to start walking white forward. What is the end condition? Until when is white going to walk? Okay, because as white is moving forward, it is swapping elements in the array. So in this case, if you look at this array, while white is walking, so white is here at 2, right? And blue is pointing here. So when it's at 2, it is going to swap 2 here and 0 is going to come here. Okay, and then blue is going to, so let's say white is here, red is here, and then blue is here at the beginning, right? So At this point, we check what is white pointing to. It is pointing to 2. Then we check is B pointing to 2. B is not pointing to 2. So we swap those, right? So this becomes 0 and this becomes 2 and B moves one space left. We do not move white forward yet because like I said, we don't know what it is going to bring. It could bring 1, it could bring 0. So that's why we have to process this element again in the next loop. So in the next loop, again, we check what is white pointing to. It is pointing to 0. What is R pointing to? It is also pointing to 0, right? So we need to move both of them. Sorry. We need to move both of them forward. It's a bit awkward for me, yeah. So again, white is pointing to 0 and red is pointing to 0. So there's nothing to be done. And we move white forward and we move R forward. Okay. Now this is pointing to 2, right? Is B pointing to 2? No. So we move white. So basically we swap and we swap here, right? And we decrement B. Okay. And now we check, and white is not going to increment because we don't know what it brought, right? It could have brought a 0. So this is a simplistic example. So in this case, again, we check where white is pointing to. It is pointing to 1. So in this case, we increment white. So it's going to be here. Okay. So basically, we increment to white in the array until white and B meet. Okay, because that would mean all the 2s are behind white and blue, and in which case we also know that all the white 0s are, basically all the reds are also in the front. Okay, so this is the condition where we want to reach. So if we start this, we say white is less than equal to blue. Okay, so now we check if the nums of white is equal to 0. If it is equal to 0, then we check if nums of red is not equal to 0. If it is not equal to 0, then what do? We say nums of white is equal to nums of red. Basically, we are swapping it. Okay, and we know that nums of red is going to be 0. You could also use a temporary variable to do the swap, but this is because we know what value it is. We know that nums of white is 0. So it's a faster way to just swap the elements. And in this case, we increment white and we increment red plus 1. Okay. Else, we have to check if, now we have to check it with blue. Like what if nums of white is pointing to 2, right? In that case, we need to check where nums of blue, what is the value of nums of blue? So first we check if this is equal to 2. Okay, if this is the case, now we have to check what nums of blue is pointing to. So if nums of blue is not equal to 2, that means there is a swap needed. In which case, we do nums of white is equal to nums of blue, and nums of blue is equal to 2. In this case, we have to decrement blue by 1. We do not increment white because, like I said, we don't know what value has come to white from blue, right? The swapped value, what is that? We don't know, because we have to process it again in the next iteration of this value. So, and then otherwise, what do we do? If it is pointing to 1, we just increment it because there is nothing to be done. I think this should be okay. Let's see, we have red, white pointing to 0, and then we have blue pointing to the end of the array. And then we walk white forward until it meets blue. and we check if nums of white is equal to 0. If it is equal to 0, then we check if nums of red is not equal to 0. That means there is a swap needed, and we swap it. And we increment white and red. If nums of white is equal to 2, and then nums of blue is not equal to 2, then we do the swap, and we decrement blue because it's walking backwards. And then otherwise, if nums of white is equal to 1, there's nothing to be done. White is incremented. I think this should work. Let's run and see. Unless I did some typo. Yes, it worked. Both test cases passed. Yeah, I think this is okay. This was it for today. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.